Hey, going on, guys? It's Ben here. I'm back today doing another video, and in today's video I'll be talking about my predictions for the NFC East for the upcoming 2019 NFL season. So, what am I doing exactly? I'm going through a series and I'm talking about each division of football, who I think will win the division, who I think will lose the division, why I think that, who will make the playoffs, who won't. Basically, I went through each team's schedule. I looked at how good each team was doing based on the strength of schedule and the difficulty of where they'll have to play, who they'll have to play, and also factoring off-season moves and current roster, I came up with who I think will be the winners and losers of each division. And this is the second part of that series, talking about the NFC East. The first part was talking about the NFC North, and if you want to check out that video, it's also on the channel, so go check that out. But for right now, let's continue with the NFC East. Let's get into it. So I have the Eagles winning the division, first of all. I have them with a record of 11-5. This team, I think that they're going to be good, and a lot of people doubt Carson Wentz, I think, but with enough time coming back, he's fully healed from the injury now. I feel as if last season he was rushed back after being missing the last couple games of the previous season, 2017. I feel 2018 he wasn't quite ready to come back, and I think that showed by him missing the last couple games again with injury. And I think this is a case, if I want to use a sports analogy and use another sport, this is like in basketball when Dwight Howard was rushed back from a back injury to play for the Lakers when he went to the Lakers back 6 years ago. He wasn't really ready, but he felt pressure to play, so he went and joined the team earlier than he should have, and for that reason he basically had a bad season in his own standards. I think that's what Carson Wentz went through last year. I think he'll be much improved this year. I think he won't be his MVP form again, but I think we could see like a Pro Bowl caliber season out of Carson Wentz. Besides him, I really like the addition of Deshaun Jackson. I think this team has a good receiving core. They added to that. I believe they also got Jordan Matthews back, or maybe not. I think he's actually on a different team, but I like the receiving core between Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson. I like that a lot. Two guys who are both fast. Well, Deshaun Watson brings the speed. Alshon Jeffrey brings your more typical like big receiver target. I think he's like 6'2". Historically been a very good receiver, and I think he'll bring that again. The only thing I'm not totally sold on for this team is the running back position. They don't have the guys like Darren Sproles anymore. They don't have Jay Ajayi. They're looking at Smallwood to be a pretty big factor on this team, and then they're also looking at Jordan Howard to be the every down back essentially now. He was good in a dual back role in Chicago with Tariq Cohen, but I'm not sure how I feel about him being like a full-time back for this team. I don't know if he has the capability to get like the 25 carries a game that they might want to give him. Maybe they'll throw it a bit more, but I think as they ease Carson Wentz back into this season, they may be looking to get 25 running back touches a game. And, maybe they'll do like a dual back thing where they give Smallwood 10 touches a game and Jordan Howard 15. I also don't know if Smallwood is experienced enough or good enough to be warranting 10 touches a game. So maybe they'll have to come up with some compromise of like giving Jordan Howard 18 touches a game and Smallwood 7 or something like that. I'm not sure. That's the one weakness on this offense. Offensive line is still pretty good, and then tight end, you got Zach Ertz, who is, again, one of the best tight ends in the NFL. So as far as receivers, quarterback, and tight end, I think they're pretty solid. Offensive line as well. The only concern on offense for me for this team is the running backs. Defensively, they're still a juggernaut. Fletcher Cox, they added Malik Jackson this year, who is a very good defensive tackle. Still got a decent linebacker core. And as far as defensive backs, you've still got Malcolm Jenkins, or not. They still have Malcolm Jenkins. And as far as cornerbacks, they've still got a few guys who are all right. Not amazing, but they've got a couple guys who you'd trust. So in general, I still like this team a lot. They've still got the guys that you want, like Fletcher Cox as your all-star on defense, and they don't have Michael Bennett anymore. They lost him. He went to the Patriots, but I think they did a fine job of replacing him essentially with Malik Jackson. And I see this team being fine at 11-5. Second place team in the division, I think it will be the Dallas Cowboys, who I have finishing with a record of 10-6. You know, this team, I think they're a team that have people's opinions ranging a lot on them. You know, some people would think that they're going to be an 8-8 team, and some people think that they're going to go 12-4 and win the Super Bowl. I'm kind of right smack dab in the middle. I think they'll basically repeat what they were last year and be 10-6, probably make the playoffs and lose in the first or second round. You know, Dak Prescott, he's not going to be a Pro Bowler ever. You know, maybe because of team success he'll be a Pro Bowler, but not really based on his own talents will he ever be a Pro Bowler, in my opinion. I see him as like a poor man's Alex Smith. I think he's a guy who he's not going to beat you with a huge arm. He's not going to beat you exclusively by running the ball a lot, but he can do a little bit of everything. He can make the occasional long pass downfield. He can do an occasional scramble for 15 yards. He's decent at play action. He's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's like a really good game manager. And game manager has a really negative stigma to it, but I think if you're really good at doing that, that's not a problem. You know, Brad Johnson won a Super Bowl and was a 2-time Pro Bowler for Tampa Bay as a game manager, and he probably looks back on his career with great pride, and he's probably very happy with his career, and he deserves to be. He had a very good career by anyone's standards, and I think that Dak Prescott will have a similar career. You know, maybe we'll make one Pro Bowl, but maybe two, but he will be remembered as a good quarterback, I think. And I think with Zeke now playing the whole season, hopefully, since he signed his contract extension, this team will do pretty well. And honestly, offensively, I like that they brought in Randall Cobb at receiver a lot. He'll be a good slot receiver for the team to replace Cole Beasley. I like that Jason Witten came back. I think that's really good for this team. He's a great locker room presence, and he's still got the ability to play. So why not come back and prove them all wrong? Dude, have a great season this year. Go out and be a Pro Bowler, Jason Witten. He's a really cool dude. So I like that he came back a lot. They still got a good offensive line, so offensively this team will still be really good. Defensively, they'll be good. They were really good last year. I don't know if they'll be able to repeat that. I don't know if it was more like lightning in a bottle. I mean, they've got a lot of the same pieces coming back. They've got Taco Charlton. They've got the big man, DeMarcus Lawrence, who's the MVP of that defense. They still got Sean Lee. They still got Kyle, I believe it's Van Der Esch, who was a rookie last year and like a surprise rookie and played really well. They still got Jalen Smith at middle linebacker. He's really good. They've got a really good front seven, linebackers and linemen. DBs and stuff, they're very average to mediocre, but that front seven is great, and teams will really struggle to run on them, and opposing quarterbacks will struggle to find protection with this front seven rushing at you. They may struggle in the passing defense a bit, but I think that they'll be pretty good as far as the run defense for sure. Okay, so beyond that, the next two teams in the division, I'm not going to spend nearly as much time on because I don't think they're nearly as interesting, and I don't think that either of them are going to be that good. I'll start with the Redskins, but I actually have both these final two teams tied for records. I have the Redskins at 3-13, and I have the Giants at 3-13. Let's start with the Redskins. Case Keenum will be manning the helmet quarterback with Dwayne Haskins as the backup. Alex Smith may be done playing in the NFL as we know it, and yes, he was playing really well last year before the injury, and he was playing really well in Kansas City for a long while, and even in San Francisco before that, but he's gone. We got Case Keenum, and let me tell you, Case Keenum is like the pumpkin after Cinderella comes back from the ball. It is not a carriage anymore, it's a pumpkin, and at this point it's starting to rot 2 seasons removed from when it was a carriage. What do I mean by all that weird Cinderella metaphor? I mean that Case Keenum caught lightning in a bottle in Minnesota when he went 13-3 and was in the MVP conversation. He had a great offensive coordinator in Pat Shurmur, but those days are gone. In Denver, he proved what he really is and what he was before he went to Minnesota briefly. He's a good backup and a mediocre NFL starter, and he's going to be another mediocre NFL starter in Washington. And I don't know if Dwayne Haskins will start at all during this season. If they're doing bad enough, maybe he will. I think that probably, around week 10, when this team's probably going to be sitting at like 2-8, I could see them bringing in Dwayne Haskins. I just don't think that this team is going to be good whatsoever offensively. I think Adrian Peterson, I think he's technically still on the team, or he might be a free agent. Either way, I think he's pretty washed up at this point. They got a guy named like Darius Guice, I think is his last name. He's going to be playing running back. I've never heard of him. I think he may be a rookie or a backup from a couple of seasons ago. I cannot name a wide receiver on this team to save my life. They don't have Jamison Crowder anymore. They don't have Josh Doxson anymore, who was a first-round pick who they let walk in free agency. So this offense is going to be atrocious. On defense, they let Preston Smith go. I believe HaHa Clinton Dix and Josh Norman are. I know Josh Norman's still there. I believe HaHa Clinton Dix is still there. The defense will be average, but the offense will basically be a dumpster fire. And for those reasons, I see them being very awful and finishing like 3-13. Maybe they'll be like 5-11, but that's like optimistically thinking. I just don't see like many teams where I'd see the Redskins playing them and saying, yeah, the Redskins have an advantage and I could see them winning. I just don't see that for many scenarios. Let's see here. Next team, the Giants. Despite drafting Daniel Jones 6th overall, I think he really should be the backup to Eli still at this point. Daniel Jones is so inexperienced as a Duke quarterback. You don't really get to see much. Mitch Trubisky was at North Carolina, and he's turning out pretty well so far in the NFL. But those ACC quarterbacks don't see the major competition that other divisions like the Big 12 or the SEC or the Big 10 face. For those reasons, I'm not quite confident in Daniel Jones. So I think it would be best for him to ride it out as a backup for a while, at least for this season. Maybe next season you can start him. As far as the rest of the team, I think they're just going to run it back at 4-12, and they really could have used their first-round pick on a position where they would start them this year, but they basically drafted a guy who I think will be a backup for a year in Daniel Jones, and so this team really didn't improve in any area necessarily. Like they should have through the draft, I don't really think. They still got Saquon, they still got Sterling Sharp, they acquired Golden Tate to be a receiver, but they also lost. They lost this Damon Harrison, who they had as a nose tackle. They lost him to Detroit, and I don't know. I don't see any part of this team where I'm like, wow, that really sticks out. They're really going to have an advantage there. DBs and defensive backs, they're safeties, they're okay. Middle linebacker, like linebacker position, I think they got Alec Ogletree. He's decent. To be nice, he's good. But the rest of that defense is just mediocre. And offensively, you've got Eli, who's old, but has still got something weirdly left in the tank where I think he can still have an okay season, enough to warrant him starting over Daniel Jones, who I think is just too raw to be starting at this point. And you've got Saquon, who's going to get about 30 touches minimum a game, I think, and could win Offensive Player of the Year this year, honestly. If this team finishes 6-10, I could see Saquon Barkley being Offensive Player of the Year. That's how bad I expect this team to be. Yeah, guys, that's really all I have for this division. So to recap, I've got the Eagles at 11-5, I've got the Cowboys at 10-6, and I've got the Redskins and Giants both at 3-13. Keep in mind, I did look at each team's schedule to predict these standings, and I don't necessarily think they'll finish on that exact win total and loss total, but I think they'll definitely be in that range. Like the Redskins could finish 5-11, 4-12, 3-13, somewhere in there, but I'm not saying they necessarily will finish with that exact record. Of course, it's very hard to predict in the NFL with such small sample sizes. There's only 16 games played, so it's hard to get a completely accurate guess, but that's what I'm thinking for this year, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to leave comments below predicting what you think the division will look like at the end of the year, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.